welcome to the Instant Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Elyse. And, I got to tell you, I was talking to my husband, Jason, the other night, and he said, semi-jokingly, semi-not, he said, if I hear the term unprecedented times one more time, I'm going to lose it. And, we laughed a little bit because it is such a term that has been thrown around quite a bit over the past, I would say, month or so. At the time of this recording, it's April 10th, 2020, and you'll probably be listening to this a few weeks afterwards. I have a feeling it will still be what we would consider unprecedented times. But it really is true that what is going on in the world for your team, for your company, is nothing that we've ever really experienced. And for those of us who are leaders and leading a team, it can be really confusing to know, how do you navigate through this with your team? How do you stay strong for your team while simultaneously steering them in the right direction and making sure that they're as well taken care of as you can, and also dealing with your own doubts and fears and insecurities? And it's something that I've been working through with my own team, and just how to kind of guide and lead them through this time as well. And so I've got a really, really fantastic guest to help us through this today. She's one of my personal clients. I've been working with her for about a year on her personal brand with Brand Builders Group. But this woman does pretty much everything. She's a dynamo. Our guest today is Tameika Devine. She is an entrepreneur. She's an elected official. She is a mom, a wife, and on the side of her coaching. So that's one of the things she does, is she's a coach, and she helps a lot of primarily women with work-life integration. But then we really wanted to have this conversation today about, how do you lead through uncertainty and through change like this? Because right now she's having to lead not only her companies and her family, but also, her community as well, and relaying messages to her community about what they can expect and what's going on. And so she's really someone who is a true expert on how to do this. And I wanted to bring her on the show to share her best practices and tips that are helping her lead effectively through this time. And so you're going to learn some of the biggest mistakes that leaders make when trying to lead through change. You're going to learn some of her best practices and tips to do so. And I couldn't have her on here and not talk about, how in the world do we work from home with the kids running around? Jason and I, we don't have kids running around the house yet. We've got our first on the way this summer, which we're so excited for. But I've been getting a lot of questions from my community about how to do that. And frankly, I don't think I'm the best qualified person to answer that because I'm not living in that world right now, but Tameika is. And so she shares how to do that, and just some really, really great insights that you can use and incorporate if you are, at the time of listening to this, working from home with your kids at home as well. So just so excited to share this episode with you. So much wisdom in here. And without further ado, let's go ahead and learn everything we can about how to lead through times of change with Tameika Devine. Tameika, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I think this is such a really, really relevant topic right now to help people figure out how to lead through change and how to lead through uncertain times. And I know you're super busy and you spend a lot of your time on the mainstream media. And so just so grateful that you were able to make the time to come on and talk with our listeners about how to do this effectively. So thank you, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Elyse, for having me. I'm just so honored to be here and to be able to share some of my tips. And I'm, of course, a big fan of yours. So to be able to be here and talk to you is exciting for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So if someone is not yet familiar with you, although people have probably seen you in the news and media, but if they haven't, if they're not familiar with you yet, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay. Well, I am a wife and a mom. I've been married to my very best friend for 16 years. And we have 4 children. We have 3 here on earth and 1 amazing baby that is in heaven. He was born into heaven. Our 3 children are ages 14, 9, and 3. So yes, we have that big range. But in addition to that, in my personal life, professionally, I'm a practicing attorney with my own law firm. I've been practicing for about 20 years. I am an elected official. I'm currently serving in my 5th term as a member of the Columbia, South Carolina City Council, the only female on our council, and I've been serving for 18 years now. And I'm an entrepreneur. My husband and I do some real estate investment, as well as I do professional speaking and coaching and consulting primarily with professionals, leaders, and helping them understand and navigate excelling professionally in their career, but also making time for the things that are important, which are their family. So I am a work-life integration strategist and leadership mentor, and that's really my passion.
Yeah. Well, and you've got all this extra time too, right? I mean, it's like only one or two things going on. And I know that that's a lot of what you coach on and speak about is this work-life integration topic. And today we may touch on that a little bit, but I think it's really going to be exciting to have a conversation that's really coming from your perspective in leadership, as a leader in your community, in your companies, in your home as well. I think for anyone who's leading a team right now, whether it's one VA and they're running lean and mean, or whether it's, in an organization of thousands, we are going through times where we have to lead in a situation that we've never had to lead before. And so I think there's fear. I think there's confusion. I think people are doing the very best they can. And they also need some good resources and tips for how to do this well. So I actually want to start off with, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that leaders make, or that you see leaders making when it comes time to lead through and navigate through uncertainty?
Yeah, that is so important to understand kind of what role you need to be in at that particular time. And a leadership role during times of uncertainty isn't much different than your leadership role in other times, but I think the way you approach it is different. Where we are right now, there's so much fear about the unknown. And so as a leader, to be able to be honest about how you don't know how this is going to work out. You have faith that things will work out and you'll get through it, and you need to help lead your team through it, but also being very transparent and honest about the fact that we're in this together. And I think a lot of problems that leaders have is that they feel like, okay, I'm quote leading through this, so I have to have all the answers, or I have to tell people this is the way it's going to go. Where I think your team actually can appreciate that you're honest about the fact that we're in this together, and I'm not exactly sure where this is going to go, but I'm going to help guide us and navigate us as a team through what is uncertain here. And as long as we stay together, we keep our priorities intact, as long as we are empathetic to everything, the emotions and the financial uncertainty and everything else that our team might be going through together, we can walk through this together and then come out on the other side in a better place.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it's funny you say the word empathy, because I think that word is a theme that I've been hearing really throughout the past couple of weeks for anyone who's in a leadership perspective. And I've been just binge watching. I don't know if you're a Gary Vee listener or fan, but he's got a YouTube series going on right now, Tea with Gary Vee. And he's really kind of helping people navigate through this change, and empathy is what he keeps talking about for leaders to be using. And so I appreciate that you bring that up, and also that we don't have to know everything. And that's something that when everything first started happening and I was thinking about with my own team, how much do I say about what I feel really confident in? How much do I say about what I don't know? And it's a question, because you want to be that solid rock for your team. But I think one of the worst things you can do right now is be disingenuous or tell people something when you don't know what the answer to it really is. So super, super helpful advice. What other things are you doing from where you sit as a leader, whether in your community or in your companies right now, to help navigate through this uncertainty?
One of the things that I've been doing, and it actually just kind of happened, but it's been very effective, and I've gotten a lot of feedback that has been helpful, is I have been communicating as much as I absolutely can to my team, in my businesses, as well as a city leader. I go on lives and I answer citizens' questions, and I think that has given people kind of a sense of not only what I said before, that we're really truly in this together because we're navigating it together, and they see that, they feel like they're part of it because I'm having these open houses or doing Facebook Lives and answering questions. But I think the other thing is, because like you mentioned, people are watching TV and they're hearing all kinds of stuff. There's so much information. There can be information overload. And as a leader for your organization or in your community, being able to be that leader that's accessible to them and being able to answer those questions for them, I think is very effective. And again, if it's a question that you don't know the answer, I think saying, I really don't know. And they appreciate that. But when it is stuff that you do know and they're able to say, okay, wow, Tameika's coming on and she's talking to me about, what does a stay-at-home order mean? And what does that mean realistically for my family? Or, even to the point as a family person, I've been out there, people see me as a leader, but they also recognize that I'm a wife and mom and I have a family. And now I'm teaching kids from home and everything else that is weird to all of us. So when I'm on my live and I'm talking and I'm just sharing, hey, today, wasn't a real good day for us to do schoolwork because the kids were getting stir crazy and they were just tired. And so we didn't do it. We went outside and rode bikes and people are like, wow, she's sharing that. And so I think staying connected as a leader with your team, because right now, one of the biggest things is people feel like we're disconnected because we can't see each other. We're not in our traditional workplaces and everything else, but staying connected with them, not just, doing your video conferencing meetings and that kind of stuff, but staying connected personally and being able to answer their questions, communicate with them the information that you have, and even sharing a little bit of your personal experience about how you're dealing with this, I think helps you stay connected with them emotionally. And I think is a very effective leadership tool through this, because they see you not only as the leader that's going to help them get through this, but they also see you as the leader that is someone who cares about your team and the folks that you're leading.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so true. And I think one of the great things that will come out of this is just deeper relationships with our team, with our families, simply because people bond in times like this, right? It's kind of like a forced bonding. And so using the channels that you talked about to build deeper relationships with team and be even more relatable maybe than ever before, that will carry through. That's going to create that trust, the loyalty factor, the deeper relationships with your team that will transcend, for how long you work together, if you keep up that type of engagement and transparency. I'm curious for you, how you keep your mindset strong during all of this, because certainly, we've talked about the importance of being honest and being transparent with your team. And then there also is a level, I think, where they're looking to you to help kind of set the perspective for, here's our take on this. Here's how we're facing this as an organization. They're looking to you for some sort of light positivity and everything. How do you personally keep your mindset strong in the midst of like everything you hear on the news?
Sometimes it can be difficult, especially with the things that you hear on the news, and you can have that overload. So sometimes I really do have to say, okay, I'm only watching these couple of news things. I feel like I honestly have to take in more news than that I would recommend for the average person, just because the news actually dictates a lot of the decisions that I have to make for the city and the citizens that I represent. But even with me, I've got to disconnect. But I would say probably the biggest thing for me in my mindset is my faith. I'm very strong in my faith. And so, I understand that God has not given us a spirit of fear, and that any and everything that comes to and at us, He's given us everything that we need to actually navigate through it. And so I'm very strong in that. So of course I get up in the mornings, I pray and I meditate, and we as a family pray. Actually today I've got a live that I'm doing a little bit later. My shirt actually says, Boss Women Pray.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And so, I wear this to kind of remind myself that, even with the leadership roles that we have and the positions that we are in, and, you may be in, in the media eye or the public eye or different things, that everything that I have is guided through my faith. And so keeping grounded in that helps me through the mindset. And then also just making time to really be intentional with everything that I do. And that's why, everything that you and I have talked about this several times, that everything that I do, I lead with intentionality. I live with intentionality, because I think being intentional about stuff, even when it's uncertain and you don't know what's coming, at least for what you do have control over and what you can do, you're intentional about it. And so things happened last night. Perfect example, transformer blew in our neighborhood. Lights were out. We were out of without power for about 4 hours. We went and we ordered food. We did a picnic in the backyard. And then when it got late, we put our flashlights out. And so I kept telling everybody we were having dinner by flashlight. And so we were very intentional with the family time. And though we could not control the fact that we're under a stay-at-home order, so we couldn't leave, and that the lights were out, so we couldn't be in the house watching Marvel movies or whatever else we wanted to do. The intentional thing we could do, and the thing we could control, is the quality of time that we were spending together as a family. And so that helps me, so that when I am in a situation where I can't control what's happening, I keep grounded in the mindset that when I am in control, I'm very intentional about the relationships and the time that I'm spending. And then again, about my faith.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's all so good. And, I bet you guys had so much fun on your flashlight picnic. Like, that's going to be a story that you probably remember forever and tell and talk about. And I think the big takeaway that I got from hearing you say that is just really being present in the moment of what, focusing on what you can control, having fun in the moment, regardless of the circumstances, and making the best of the moment. And that's just so cool how you guys did that. I love that. One of the other things I want to ask you, because I think you are just, as people listen to the intro and everything that you're doing and your focus on work-life integration, I hear this a lot from my community right now. And frankly, I don't know how to answer it because we don't have kids. We've got one on the way, but we don't have kids running around the house yet. And so for you, and then for, working parents who suddenly have kids at home, they're trying to figure out how in the world do I do my work while the kids are also running around and doing their thing, and I'm trying to school them. I can't have you on here and not ask what tips or strategies you have for working parents who find themselves in that situation right now.
I say one of the biggest things I would tell people, one tip, is give yourself grace. We're all going through some craziness right now, and it's difficult to say, I'm going to run and manage my business from, my home office, but I'm also going to be teacher over here and deal with some fourth grade math that is completely different from what I learned. And I have a 3-year-old. So as you can imagine, a 3-year-old's attention span is not very long. And so if I say I'm going to sit down with him and he's going to do work for 30 minutes, we may get 30 minutes out of it, we may not. And so I've got to kind of quote balance all of that. And so the tip I would say is, first of all, give yourself grace, because every day is going to be a little bit different, and it's not necessarily going to go the way you want it or the way you plan. And that's okay, because everybody's going through it right now. Another tip I'd say is what you can control, try and do that. So keep to a schedule, keep the kids on the schedule, you stay on the schedule, so that you just don't get really laxed about everything that you have to do. So for me, that means I get up early. I typically will get up early. I will try and work from, 5 to 9, 6 to 10, before they actually get up and really need mommy to help, so that I can actually accomplish some things during that time, so that once, my work time is over, then I can become teacher and I can help them through what they're doing. And then I'm very intentional, again, about having 3 things I've got to accomplish for the day. Usually I have very long lists of things I've got to do. I've got meetings, I've got this, and we know that in this environment, everything may, be out of whack. And so don't get down on the fact that you can't accomplish all the things that you normally do. I give myself 3 things. And it's like, if I can accomplish those 3 things, if I accomplish them by 10 in the morning, that means I may not have to do any more work for the rest of the day. But if I don't, then at least I know those are some of the things I can get done, and I don't get overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, the day, it's 4:00 already and I haven't done anything. I know it's manageable, that I can get at least these 3 things done. If I get more, that's great, but at least these 3 things get done. So really kind of being, helping manage your time a little bit better, and being realistic on what you can accomplish with all the extra responsibilities that you're going to have during this hopefully interim time of schooling and working from home.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing too, just your schedule, because I think a lot of times people don't, they don't realize, like, you actually do, to get done what you get done, you get up really early and you focus and you have that focused time, but you also give yourself the grace to be flexible and to adjust and kind of dance in the moment with what's needed. So one of the things I often do whenever there's something going on in my life that feels out of control or feels bigger than me, as I just look for, you know, what are the lessons in this? Because I always think if something's happening like that, there's a lesson that we're meant to learn. There's always something great that's meant to come out of it. So I've just been asking myself a lot over the past couple of weeks, like, what are the lessons that we as, you know, humanity are meant to take from this, that I personally am meant to take from this, and not discounting or discrediting the hardship that people are going through right now, because it's a real thing. But I think one of the things that has really shown up for me is just kind of the lesson of focusing on what matters and being present to what matters. And when things are really easy, it's easy to let stuff just kind of build up. And like you said, you got maybe like the to-do list of 20 things that you normally can get done in a day because it's just easier to do it. And so now I think we've had a real refining process of, we're in a refining process of what actually matters, what doesn't, in terms of our time, in terms of what we focus on, in terms of what we spend on. And so that keeps coming up for me while you talk about this. With that, and we'll tell people in a moment where to connect with you, because I know they're going to want to get to know you further and follow you. But from your perspective, what are some of the best things that you see coming out of this time of uncertainty, whether on a, you know, on a human level of like the entire world, or even just for, you know, for your city, for your family? What are some of the blessings and the gifts that you can maybe already see starting to happen?
Well, at least there's so many, and it's it's odd that people feel like with the loss of life, the loss of, you know, economic benefits that some people have, that you feel like there's a lot of great things that are coming out of this. But I really do. Every day I see the positives. I see, number one, the intentionality. I mean, you know, my husband and I, every single night for the last 2 weeks, we have got on the phone. He and I sit there together on our back porch, and we call folks that we don't normally connect with. Some elderly folks from our church who probably are really, you know, when we think about quarantine, at least sometimes we run out to the store, run to the post office or something, but they're really in because they're part of that vulnerable population. And some of them don't have children or grandchildren close. And so we've called them and talked to them, and we've had some really great connections with the folks. And so that's been great. I think there's definitely a better appreciation for a lot of folks that, unfortunately, and I don't think it's a malicious thing, but unfortunately, I think sometimes we take for granted some of these folks who are really truly essential workers, our healthcare workers, our, you know, our public service folks that can't afford to stay home right now. In order for us to be able to stay home, they are out there working. And so appreciating that. The teachers, I mean, like I said, you know, being able to sit there with my 3-year-old all day and keep them focused, I have a great appreciation for daycare workers. And so the appreciation for the folks that really make our world work at the various levels and positions that they have, I think is something that'll come out of it. And then I also think that, especially as an elected leader, I think there's a realization among folks who are in positions of power that make decisions about how important every single person is to making our community the way it is. And so I hope that we'll be in a position that we'll have folks who are making decisions or in positions of authority to make decisions. They will make it based on more appreciation for the role that everybody has, and how we can appreciate all of our workers. So that's been really positive. And I think that as we go through this, we'll all see more things. We'll realize how much we fill our time with stuff that sometimes really doesn't matter, because we've had this time to actually spend time on and focus on what really does matter. And so I think we'll come out of that probably a little bit more efficient, hopefully a lot more happier and healthier, and a lot more connected to everybody within our society.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your leadership, for your guidance, for everyone who you've been leading and everyone just listening to this podcast as well. I know I got so much out of what you shared, and I know everyone else did as well. Tell us all where we can connect with you, how people can learn more. Just tell us all the things so that people can connect with you further.
So great. Well, my website is adivinelife.com, which is ADEV as in Victor, INE, life.com. And there you can find more about me, what I do. My blog is there. And so I try and blog on lifestyle lessons, leadership lessons, work-life integration tips. So please, read my blog and share with me your insights. But also on there, I have a downloadable. So you'll be able to download some tips of leading through uncertain times. And I also have some great work-life integration tips for as you're working from home and when you transition back to regular life. We all need better work-life integration. So my tips are there. And then I'm on along all social media, Tameika Devine. So you can catch me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Oh my gosh. And guys, her social media is fabulous. You definitely want to connect with her and learn from Tameika there and see her just absolutely adorable family and kids and all the just wonderful people in your life. And I learned so much from you following you on social and your blog too. So thank you. Just thank you again for being available to lead today, for being available to guide us, for your family, for them making the space for you to have this conversation as well. Because I know you're in the middle of it working from home with everybody else right now too. And I so appreciate you. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do. I love your podcast, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed Connect with Tameika. Definitely get her tips on how to navigate change and uncertainty, as well as for work-life integration. And I will look forward to seeing you next week on our next episode. Bye for now.